Hey guys, since my Totoro stop motion animation video was such a huge project for me, I wanted to show you a bit of behind the scenes, all the effort it took into making that video, and the whole process behind it. I had never tried any form of animation before. This was all new to me. I spoke to, I think, 3 animators to try to understand what I was getting myself into. I knew I wanted to do it, but I didn't know what time frame I'd need. So I basically asked them, is this a realistic project? Can I get this done? And they all told me it all depended on how long it took to paint each frame. And I was like, oh, that's fine. I can do it, whatever. But 60 hours later, and I wanted to die. If you want to tackle something like this, I don't know if I recommend doing the way that I did it. I just sped through it during 4 days, non-stop filming. I didn't do anything else besides filming on those 4 days. I did have to sleep with the makeup on, however, and that's why I didn't sleep the last day, because I was already fully covered and I didn't want to risk messing it up. So because of that, I wasn't able to shower. I showered the first day and then I showered as soon as I finished. So I don't know if I recommend doing what I did. If you do end up trying something like this, it might be best to divide it into scenes that you can cut and clean yourself up, go to sleep, do whatever, go on with your normal life, and then come back to it whenever you can. I tried to do that when I storyboarded the video. I tried to make it 3 different scenes so that I could get the walking done, cut there, go to sleep, do the Totoro in the forest, get that done, and then my plan was for the night sky to fall all over my face and cover this as well so that I could cut, go to sleep, and come back to it the next day, but I decided to change my plans and I only went with the night sky on my face and I kept the Totoro sleeping, so that made me not be able to sleep. So definitely keep into consideration your sleeping schedule while you're planning this sort of thing. The little Totoro's walking took the longest time to do. That took about 1.5 days. Originally I wanted them to walk all the way across so there would be seeds all over here, but that did not happen. I had to cut it short. They walked till about halfway, turned around, and then started dancing. I finished the second day with the plants starting to grow, the little buds. And the third day was the plants growing and the Totoro. And then I didn't sleep, so third and fourth day, the cat bus happened, and then the dust bunnies. So my initial plan was, okay, I'm gonna film for 3 days. First day walking, second day plants growing, third day cat bus, and the end. I had to add an extra day to my schedule, so keep that in mind, plan ahead, make sure you have time. I had to cut down on a day of editing, which isn't ideal, but it's life, it happens. I just had to edit a lot quicker than I would usually do, or try to anyway. And then there was a day for product shots and the voiceover, so a lot of filming, a lot of stuff involved. I also experimented with new lighting. I am using my ring light from the DVE store. Thank you, DVE store. And the usual softbox that I use to light my videos is actually behind me, lighting up my background. I really used this video to experiment and go way out of my comfort zone. Like, I wasn't even close to my comfort zone. I wanted to do something that was outside the box, something that hopefully no one else would have thought of. My roommate tried to convince me against it. She was like, you've never done this before. This is gonna be so hard, you have no idea. And she's a huge anime fan, and she helped me come up with ideas, and she tried to convince me to do other things, and in the end I was like, no, I want to do something that means something to me. I want to do something that's special. I'm gonna go with Totoro, and I'm gonna go with the stop motion animation. Even then, she still tried to convince me. I did a test run of the animation, and I showed it to her, and she was like, okay, if you're gonna do this, then let's go. You're gonna do this. And that was that. She helped me, made sure I was all set up. She sent me care packages because I'm not filming at home, and she was super supportive along the way. That's really helpful as well. If you have people that can help you when you're tackling a project like this, it's, you know, essential. I did do all the filming myself, and all the editing, but the sound design and music was done by my boyfriend, and I shot at a friend's house and had help from my roommate getting all my stuff here and sending me things whenever I needed. So it was by all means a team effort. I couldn't have done this without my friends, so I really, really appreciate the help, and I'm so lucky to have people like them in my life. On the last night, the night that I didn't sleep, I started nodding off while I was painting, and I messaged my friends being like, hey, who wants to Skype? I need to stay awake. So I Skyped with 3 different people throughout the day, and that helped me stay awake and continue working and finish the project. I actually finished it while on Skype with one of my friends. So a big thank you to Juku, Lauren, and Michelle for keeping me awake. So the first step was researching what technology could help me make this project. I looked up some software that's used specifically for stop motion animation, and I came up with 3 programs that I looked into. The first one that was recommended to me is called Dragonframe, and it's what's used by the professionals in the stop motion industry, pretty much. It is like the go-to program. It is amazing and it does everything that you need, but it costs about $300. They do have a free trial, however, that lasts for, I think, 15 days, but it is a limited trial, so anything you make on it has a limit of 50 frames, and they put a watermark over it, so you can't use it to actually make a project. It will have their watermark all over your picture. So that was no good to me. Second one is called Helium Frog, which is a free program, but turns out they don't have an updated version to use with DSLR cameras. It is an open source program, so people are free to contribute and make the program better, but unfortunately it didn't meet my requirements. And then last but not least, the program I ended up using is called Anima Shooter. It is a paid program, and they have 3 versions of it. They have the junior version, which has less features, and then it gradually builds up. The one I'm using is the Capture, which is their highest level, and it costs about $50, but they do have a free trial that lasts for 60 days if you sign up for their newsletter, and it's unlimited. So you can create a project, export it, and you're fine, you're good to go. You don't necessarily need a program like this to do a stop motion animation, but they all have a function called onion skinning, which lets you see the previous frame and it overlaps with what your camera is currently seeing, so you can match them up as closely as possible and take your next frame. That was absolutely essential in getting this right. That way I could see which way I had to sit, which way I had to position my shoulders, and my face, and everything. That allowed me to not rely on someone else to do the camera work for me. I just had my laptop in front of me, right here, and I could look at it, compare it, just wiggle around till I got it right, and then with my mouse, just clicked it and took the next picture. It also lets you choose how many frames you want per minute, so if you want to do less frames, you can, it goes slower. I know that usually for stop motion animation movies, they do about 24 frames per second, which is an insane amount of frames. Like, you have no idea. I did 24 frames on my first day just trying to get them across my chest. Like, that's... I started with 5 frames, thought that was a bit slow, changed it to 7, and then kind of played with that around a bit. So you don't have to go all out and do 24 frames per second. You can do less. It's gonna look a bit choppy, but I think it's kind of endearing when these things are a bit, you know, choppy, and I don't know, I just think it's cute. One thing I should also mention is to loop things whenever possible to save you time. For the little dance, what I did is I animated them lifting up the little leaf, bringing the other hand in, and bringing it down. And that's all I did. I didn't animate them bringing the leaf back up. I just looped it in reverse. So I had the shots of the leaf here, the leaf here, the leaf here, and then when they got here, I just used the shot of the leaf here again and the one here, and just looped that over and over to save myself time. For the rain, I did the same thing. I drew the drops coming down, and then when they were all covering my face, I erased some, I changed some a little bit, and then I just looped those 2 shots of the rain so that it would have a bit of movement to it. Unfortunately, Those were the only two things I could loop. The rest, there was no way around it. I had to erase everything and repaint everything, but it's okay. So once I had settled on technology, I went to the actual planning. I storyboarded my video because I noticed that whenever I tried to explain the video idea to my friends, I could never get across what I was trying to do. I would say, okay, they're gonna run across my chest,
and they're gonna dance, and then plants are gonna grow, and they're gonna grow onto my face, and then nighttime is gonna fall, and it's gonna start to rain, and then the cat bus is gonna appear on my face.
And they just kind of all stared blankly at me like, oh, that sounds like a good idea. So I storyboarded it to get it on paper, and that actually helped me tackle some problems I was having with the scene transitions. I wasn't sure how I was gonna do a few things, like them turning around or Totoro appearing, so that helped me get on paper and actually see what I'd be able to do. Because if you can draw it on paper, you can draw it on yourself. So it's important to sketch things out, even if it's really rough. It also helped me figure out my expressions that I was gonna do. I was like, okay, I'm gonna look surprised here, and then happy here, and then back to surprised. And I kind of worked that as I went along, how I felt looking at the drawings on myself, but it's a helicopter. An airplane? But the storyboarding definitely helped. Third step was doing a test run to see if it would be possible for me to do this. Since I had never done animation before, I didn't know exactly how many frames it was going to take per second to get my idea across, so I did this little short film. And that was actually super simple because I didn't draw in the eyes, I didn't have the second Totoro to worry about. I just did him out of face paint, which is super easy to erase, and I did that test in about 40 minutes. So I was like, oh, I just whipped this out in 40 minutes. It's fine. It's gonna be fine when I do the actual thing. It's gonna be super quick, super easy. I got this. No, but seriously, there was definitely a steep learning curve. I think the biggest learning curve was figuring out how much I could move everything and get away with it between each frame, since I wasn't doing 24 frames a second where you literally move everything a millimeter at a time. I started moving them very little by little, and then after a few frames I figured out, you know what, I can move them a lot more. So I did that and started working a lot faster. The first day when I started to animate them walking across, when I was maybe halfway, I started regretting everything, and I thought, you know, Jessie was right, I shouldn't be doing this.
I've never done this before, this is insane, why did I decide to do this? This is so much harder than I thought it would be. I did that test in 40 minutes, it's taking me a whole day. Why couldn't I just do a normal makeup like a sane person?
And then when I got past all the self-loathing and self-doubt, I actually started to love what I was doing. After the initial panic set in, I was like, you know what? I started this, I'm going to finish this. When they started dancing was actually when I got really happy. I was able to paint the trees, and I was like, you know what? This is working out. It's all gonna be fine. Just continue what you're doing. You're fine. So if you ever have moments of self-doubt, it's normal. They'll pass, and you'll end up with something you're so proud of. Another super important aspect is planning your setup. I was lucky enough to be able to film at a friend's house who has a spare room, which is where I currently am right now, because it is essentially a hot set, which means you can't move anything on set. So you can't move your lighting, otherwise it will change between frames. You can't move your camera position, and you can't move the chair you're sitting in. So there's a sandbag holding my camera tripod to make sure it didn't move. My lights remained untouched, but even then, even with all this planning, I still had what's called flicker, which is a change in lighting between frames, and that's because I didn't use a manual lens. I used one that has the autofocus option, so it's an electronic lens. So no matter if your settings stayed the same, things can change because the light will go differently through the camera and be interpreted differently by the camera. I didn't really care all that much because this isn't a professional film. This was just my personal project. So I didn't really get too bothered by it. If this was a professional thing that I was doing, I would definitely go for one of the recommended lenses. I read up on that as well. People recommend using a Nikon manual lens, even if you're using a Canon camera, which is my case. That way it's guaranteed that there won't be flicker and it will be interpreted by the camera the same way every time you take a picture. And that's also something you don't have to worry about if you're not doing it at a professional level. Same way I didn't worry about it too much. And you can always color correct in post-production if need be. If you're tackling this in consecutive days like I did, make sure you have plenty of snacks, plenty of water, and that you take little stretch breaks every few hours or so. First day, I powered through. I didn't take any breaks except for food breaks, and I really regretted it the next day. My shoulder is completely banged up. So on the second day, I was like, you know what? I need to get through this, but I also need to stay comfortable, otherwise I won't be able to finish it. So I stopped for stretch breaks. I'd stretch my arms up every so often, and I had little snacks that I could munch on. Make sure they're healthy snacks because that will make you feel better. I had tons of fruit that I could snack on. You'll be sitting down a lot, so if you can take 5 minutes and just put your feet up against the wall just so the blood can rush down from your feet, that really helps. I did that at one point and then I almost fell asleep and I was like, nope, time to get up, time to get back at it. I was very sleep deprived. Have some music in the background, have a TV maybe. Even though that might distract you, it will help keep you motivated and keep you, working. Will I ever be doing another stop motion animation? I don't know. Potentially, if I plan it better, if I can get sleep between each day, then sure, why not? It was fun to do despite working 60 hours to get 30 seconds of footage. It was fun, and it's something I'm glad I did. And I encourage anyone that's ever wanted to do something like this to go ahead and do it, even if it's not with makeup, if it's normal animation, if it's with like little Lego bricks, go for it. It's something that will get your creative juices flowing, so it's definitely a positive challenge, and I really encourage you to tackle it if it's something you've been thinking of doing. So if you have any questions about my process, I don't know if I'm the best person to go to for questions about animation, since this is the only thing I've ever done. I am by no means an expert. Far, far, far from it. But if you have any questions about my particular project and the things that I went through with it, then please comment below and I'll get back to you as best I can. So I hope you enjoyed seeing a bit of my process, and I hope that answered any questions you may have had. But if not, then feel free to comment below. And thank you so much for watching, guys. I'll see you next time. Bye! I think that's it.